In the noisy, smoky and horribly sticky arcades of the late 80s and early 90s, it was very tricky to stand out. But things often did, say the bulky cabinets of Space Harrier or Daytona, where they would be easy to spot in an arcade, with huge throngs of players gathered around them waiting for their turn. Also attracting large crowds would be the popular and excellent standouts in their genre, things such as Street Fighter 2 or Final Fight, where they would have their location given away by the sheer popularity of how good they were. Some might be playing the classics of a decade before, of course. They would always attract the eye. People would be chasing the high score on a weary looking but game Pac-Man unit or an asteroids cab. Then there's the always very leery football game that loudly proclaims each goal scored in its attract sequence. Then there's the fruit machines in their own dedicated corner, of course, populated by slightly older clientele, often with cigarette-yellowed fingers hammering the buttons sporadically, a slight pulsing of worry and mania emanating from their ageing eyes. Let's not forget the claw grab game, of course, that would one day stage a coup and conquer the arcades at the seaside some 20 to 30 years hence. And in that one corner, well, there would be something that wouldn't stand out quite as much. There would always be just that one game, that weird game, and it is always just that one, an unloved monolith with no licence to a kid's Saturday morning cartoon to bolster its appeal, no attachment to a popular genre to lure kids over from the likes of Capcom, Sega or SNK's exciting wares. They were beguiling and imminently ignorable, and they usually left the arcade in short order, with no one really remembering their name. They are the arcade equivalent of the nerdy wallflower at a New Year's party for teenagers. But those games, those outsiders, are what we're celebrating here. Well, I wouldn't actually say celebrating, some of them are absolute shite. Anywho, here's to these kooky bastards that were slunked away in the corner of your favourite fun emporium, there to take up a bit of space before the latest Mortal Kombat board arrived. I've covered some of their brethren before, of course, but with thousands of games in that there Mame file, there's bound to be more nuggets, both made of gold and former dinners, to be found if we look hard enough. I suspect that I can take regular dives into this particularly slurry-full trough, so let's see what I can bring up with me this time as we look at another 10 Mame oddities. Let us start at the turn of the millennium and South Korean studio Afiga's effort Pops Pops, a game I obviously selected from the Mame list because I thought it would be an affectionate platformer about a dad farting. Silly me, I should have gone for Uncle Pooh, which will no doubt headline the third one of these should I do it later this year. No, Pops Pops is an arcade version of the TV show Wheel of Fortune, but it's entirely about song titles and doesn't feature Nicky Campbell. Poorly rendered photographs of models appear as our stand-in Jenny Powell, as we're asked to guess the names of songs by a handful of artists. Weirdly, rather than being about pop as the name suggests, it's more about hard rock and metal, with Kiss, Helloween, Motorhead, Metallica and Megadeth appearing far more regularly than the likes of Madonna or Michael Jackson. There are apparently only 50 songs in the game's library, so don't expect to keep coming back to this. And, well, don't go expecting any snippets of copyrighted music either. Pops Pops will not be giving them to you. Another weird quirk is that the Mania mode is actually a lot easier than normal mode, as you can select which artist you want to pick from in Mania mode rather than normal mode, which doesn't make a lot of sense really. And not only that, it helps you out with some album artwork. If you get the letters that make up the song title wrong 3 times, you will lose, and that's the end of you go. Fair enough. Probably not a good idea to land on loose either, as I suspect you'll lose your credit. However, don't expect to keep playing and answering multiple song titles if you're a muso smartass either. You see, if you get all the correct letters of a song title, your go also ends. What a swizz! The second game on the list here is Noah's Ark. Arcades were no place for the holy, so discovering that there was a coin-op based upon the Bible's most logic-testing parable was always going to be a certain entry on this list when I found it. And is it as bad as those Bible adventure games on the NES? Why, yes, it is. Noah's Ark is an old game. Entertech, one of the true footnotes of the pre-crash American game scene, distributed the digital adventures of the animal coupling ship builder in 1983, which explains its rather rudimentary look and feel. The player controls Noah as he has to round up and direct as many species as he can onto the boat before the water rises up and drowns the hirsute beasts. I'm not sure you're going to get that ark to float though, Noah. It's more of a shed. So yes, this game hasn't aged well, if it was any good to start with, and unicorns keep creepily appearing, and I've no time for them either, so that gets a mark down already. Sod off, unicorns. Not the best game on the list then, and probably one to avoid should you find it on your Mame list. Much better is Risky Challenge, a puzzle game by R-Type makers IREM. Rather than controlling a teenage boy masturbating out his vinegar strokes before his mum comes in and drops the cup of tea off, as the name Risky Challenge suggests, you control a benevolent god type in this frenetic puzzler that's equal parts Tetris and Lemmings. Bloody good it is too. You move blocks about to create stairs for your simple ball-headed charge to climb so he can escape each dungeon. Bombs are provided too, along with blocks to help you clear out any mistakes you may have made and also dispatch any wrong-uns that join the fray. And just like Noah's Ark, that wet stuff at the bottom of the screen will likely cause you all kinds of mischief. It's a great game and deserves your eyes, your thumbs, and your love. Another game that is a wonderfully intriguing mix of game styles is the rather lazily titled Mouse Shooter Go-Go. Smash TV has been cut and shunted with Puzzle Bobble and Pang as you steer your anthropomorphic rodent with tood around the screen, hurling severed animal heads at bunches of other hellish, screaming animal heads. They make no sound because they've got no vocal cords, because they're just heads, but make no mistake, they are in pain. I'm projecting weirdness again. You can run around anywhere on the screen, but make sure you don't make body contact with the heads or your little mouse will cark it. One of your buttons shoots and the other locks and unlocks you from the position you're pointed in. A clever solution that doesn't rely on the two joysticks then from Smash TV. Just like Puzzle Bobble, you'll clear the screen by hitting the heads of the poor little animals with the heads of their same species. Hit the wrong one and like Puzzle Bobble, you've got another one to get rid of on the screen. Take too long and the play area begins to shrink, making your chances of getting hit increased. Add in some boss encounters and you've got an interesting puzzle action game hybrid par excellence. The sexy lady mice though, they're a little bit too much. Did you have to give them jiggle physics when they jump up and down? That's not right. Shame on you, Metro Corp. pair of animals that definitely aren't sexy are the pair of creatures in the first level of Bleak Russian cat simulator, Kotrybelov. Look how depressing this looks. This is 1980s fight over a loaf in St. Petersburg Tesco sadness. Make no mistake about that. And it's from Russian producers Terminal. Translating as Cat the Fisher into English, your Ginger Tom with a purposeful stride initially battles this highly trained martial arts blue-beaked opponent for bait worms. That bird is badass though. Look at his stance. Just look at him. From here you can then go fishing for your dinner in a poor second level minigame, followed by a rather dramatic rooftop battle against a horde of other pussies. Despite the rather elegant martial arts posing on display and its silly premise, this is piss poor yore kung fu fare, and it is worth skipping in all honesty. But who knew Russia made arcade games? Not me. Much better fare is to be found in Super Slam, a rather basic but very playable smash court tennis arcade sports game that was made by Playmark in 1993. What's this doing on my list? After all, it's a rather average looking arcade sports game, and that's not very odd at all, is it? Well, amongst the usual fake tennis stars based on real stars of the time, you can also either play as an old man, a small boy, or a racketless Maltese pooch that runs as fast as a wet turd in a water park slide. Look at that little fella go. What a good boy. And despite its mediocre graphics, you know what? It's a pretty good tennis game and well worth a play. Galeco, the Spaniards behind Thunder Hoop and Thunder Hoop Strikes Back from the first video, they have this time cast their eye enviously at Comad and their dodgy kicks porn games such as Fantasia. I cover Fantasia on this video here, have a look. Well, they've decided to throw their morality out the window and make sure that absolute filth ensues by cornering a piece of that market for themselves. You're charged with uncovering ladies with your magic rainbow paintbrush, which I thought was something that cruel employers would send work-experienced teenagers out to buy in an act of soul-destroying bullying that makes said kids not want to get real jobs afterwards. I still remember my time. Where Galeco get it wrong is that whereas Comad's games are designed to extract coins from horny desperates, Splash is a lot easier, and thanks to not having to block off whole sections and avoid your trail getting hit, there's none of that here. Also, the brush is armed with bullets, which makes it a lot easier to dispatch enemies that would indeed crush your lust. The difficulty comes in that horny types will have to clear the screen 3 times before they get a full view of the lady and are numerous curves and crevices, while the offending parts usually are covered in the earlier stages with some hilariously poor early photoshopped clothes. It's a simple game to pick up and play, but that doesn't mean it's any good. The dirty filth continues with more new ladies in Ladykiller, a 1993 adult puzzler by the Mitchell Corporation. The objective of Ladykiller is to dive and leap through the play area, which reveals the cartoon lady underneath. Just turn a nudie pen upside down, it'll be cheaper. You can select your lady from a selection of international beauties, and you've got to undress her by flipping the tiles with your little scuba dude. You can speed up the nudie action by collecting power-ups that flip multiple tiles at once, or by collecting golden flippers that speed up your underwater pervert avatar. After 5 stages of undressing, you get to, waggle your joystick literally in a fake cartoon lady erotic minigame before shame makes your lifespan scream for finality, and you pick the next lady and continue this lusty adventure of wrongness. Ladykiller went on actually to be successful enough to get a sequel in 1995, which was very similar and called Party Time. Which, surprisingly, this is not. This, no, is Paparazzi by Yun Sung. Yeah, I don't know who they are. And it came out in 1996, some 3 years later. And, well, it's not changed much, has it? So not only does a game that I've never heard of get a sequel, it also gets a clone, which is mind-boggling. The graphics are maybe slightly better in this game, at least in terms of the sprites, but the artwork of the cartoon ladies, well, they're not really any more advanced. But they still lay in wait for the terminally lonely who love exposing themselves in public places. Gameplay-wise, well, they're not even that good, this pair of games, and certainly they're not comparable to Risky Challenge or Mouse Shooter. If you want good gameplay, decent puzzle action, and to be engorged, I'd say just play Mouse Shooter. I guess you'll just have to find creepy human mice with tits attractive. Life's choices are often miserable. Right, well, I'll see you in the next episode of this later on in the year for more erotic rodent action, no doubt. Hopefully, sexy mice. Okay, thanks, bye.